and Happy New Year. This is the first episode of 2025. And today I want to talk to you about why New Year's resolution does not work and what to do instead. So, Friday, last Friday was, as I'm recording this, is a Monday, and it's the second Monday of January. But last Friday was the second Friday of January because this month actually started on a Wednesday. Yeah. So last Friday was the second Friday of January, and it was what they call the Quitters Day. And the Quitters Day is the day that most people quit their New Year's resolution, which is usually the second Friday of January. And this year, especially, at least if you're in the United States, all over US, we're having all kinds of weather, natural disaster issues. If you are in the West Coast, there are terrible fires going on. If you are in the North, the last week there was snowstorms everywhere. It's terrible. This week is supposed to have snowstorms in Texas. I am in Florida, so right now is not our storm season. Usually we have hurricanes in the summertime, so right now it's a calm season, but because of all the snowstorms in the north, we are having terrible cold weather here in Florida, which for Floridians is a struggle because we are not prepared for, like, our homes are not made for cold weather, our wardrobe or not. I mean, I've lived in the north for a long time, so I have it, but as I walk around, people are wearing 4 sweatshirts because they don't own a winter jacket. You know what I'm saying? So some less, some more, but everybody out there are somewhat struggling with Mother Nature. So I guarantee that this year we have a higher amount of quitters of the New Year resolutions on Quitters Day than even the normal year where we don't have all those weather issues. And I was thinking about that even before. So if you went through the last 60 days with me, I already told the people who participated in the challenge how I would do this episode as soon as the year start, of why New Year's resolution does not work and what to do instead. But then all this happened with the weather and all over the country, and I'm like, this is so needed. And the reason why I love this topic is because New Year's is actually my favorite holiday. I love new beginnings. I love a new week. I love a new day in the morning. Like, some days when the day is like a mess, I just say I just need to go to bed and start over tomorrow because I love a new start. And throughout most of my life, I did New Year's resolution, and I would write down my goals, and I would do everything that everybody out there tell you to do. You know, you write down your goals, you make your plan, you do your tracking, and you make sure you are hustling enough and doing what you need to do to follow that plan. And if you've heard any of my podcast episodes during the last 60 days and even before, or if you connect me on Instagram, you know that in the past few years, I decided to unsubscribe from the hustle mode. I decided to unsubscribe from the energy of using your willpower to make things happen, because I spent my whole life using my willpower to make things happen. And even though it does work to a point, it works at the cost of your physical and your mental health, at your relationship with other people. The cost is too high, and the goal is not worthy enough of me destroying everything else in my life just to say I did it. And I know a lot of people who are much older than me that I talk to, and they spend their whole life pushing through willpower, and now they regret because they didn't enjoy the first, let's say, 60 years of their life because they're pushing through willpower. And now they may have a comfortable situation, but they don't have many people to share with. Their health is terrible. So there is a better way. There is a way that we can do the things that we have to do and still respect our body and still respect our relationships and still respect everything else around us. And this is what I want to share here, because this is what I found that works not only for me, but as I start doing more research on this, I found that so many people already do it this way, but it's not the mainstream. And the reason why is that we live in somewhat of a masculine society, right? So if you are familiar, if you were, there's a big chance that if you're listening to this, you're a woman, because most of my audience are women. And if you are a woman, you know what a period is. And yeah, so that may be a little too much information for a man, but you can handle. I'm sure you can. So a woman's cycle is usually, they say, 28 days, and it plays between 28 to 35, some people more, some people less. But our hormonal cycle is a whole month. Let's just round it there. And during this month, we go to peaks of energy. So if you're ovulating, you have a lot of energy, you only need to sleep 6 hours a day. You're like, oh my gosh, I can get so much done. And then in the luteal phase, you start getting really slow, and then you get your period, and you're like, I can't do anything. Life sucks. I think I'm depressed. And then 3 days later, it passed, and you start getting your energy back. So this is how the women's body works. And if society were made by women, our work schedule would go according to that cycle. And we would get a lot done in 2 weeks of the month, and then the other 2 weeks we would be getting more administrative tasks done. Not that they're not important, but they don't require all the energy they require for you to do some of the other tasks that you need to be out there running a marathon. And you know what I'm saying? The same thing with working out. Our working out schedule would be according to the energy that we have in our body. But our society is masculine, and the man's hormonal cycle is 24 hours. So what do we take a month to go through? They take a day. So they wake up and they have all this energy because they wake up with the most testosterone they will have during the day. So they have all this energy. So when you hear gurus talking about, they say, wake up at 5 in the morning and get your workout done and get your most important task of the day done, because a man will have all that energy when they wake up. My husband wake up like a jack out of a box. Like, it does not matter, 5 o'clock in the morning, he's up, he's making noise, he's doing all those things. And I am not that way. But then in the evening, I have all this energy, and he's sleeping in the couch because he's so tired, because his energy is done, right? So it goes through the process. And I'm sure you're listening to this, and most likely you're like, yeah, my husband is the same way. Or if you're not married, you may say, my dad's like that. So a man wake up with all this energy. So our schedule is wake up and go work out and get most of your most important focused work done in the morning. And then as the day goes by, the man's energy is starting to slow down. The brain is start to slow down. So that's why we have the happy hour, because the man's focus is down, but he still have enough energy to socialize. So that's where working social meetings happen, and happy hours, and early working dinners, and that kind of stuff. And then in the end of the night, a man's energy is all done and they go to sleep. Well, if you're a woman on a if you're ovulating, it can be 11 o'clock at night, and you have enough energy to clean a whole castle, because you got all this boom of energy in your body, right? So our body works different than a man's body, and we have to understand that. And for us to live, because we do live in more of a masculine society, we tend to think that things only work if we do them in a masculine way. And if you're a man and if you have the man hormones, they will work for you that way. That's why you see a lot of men that are out there working at 5 o'clock in the morning, and they're like, oh, they have this awesome body, all this energy, all this health, and they're like, you need to do that. But your body does not work that way. So then when you try, it doesn't work, right? Um, the same thing with focus work, the same thing with everything that we do. So, for the sake of this conversation, I'm going to call a masculine energy and a feminine energy so you know what I'm talking about. The same thing is for business, okay? Men, if women try to grow business the way men does, we will burn out because our brain and our body works differently, okay? Yeah, there are women out there that has a lot of masculine energy and that cause a lot of other health problems. Conversation for another day. Being there, done that. Uh, Being there, done that. Conversation for another day. But let's go back to our focus on what to do instead if New Year's resolution are not working for us. If we say we're going to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and we do it for 3 days and then we can't do it anymore, what we can do instead. And I'm going to tell you, there are a lot of days that I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. There are a lot of days that I go work out in the morning. But you may see if you follow me on Instagram that I'll do that and then I don't. And then I'll do that and then I don't, because I do respect my body. And if I feel the energy boost and I feel like I'm in the days that I have a lot of energy, you better believe I'm going to be up as early as possible and trying to get as much of work done as I can. And some weeks I'm extremely productive and some weeks I'm not, because I found that respecting my body and working with my body is better than working against it, because working against it is like swimming against the waves. Okay, if you've swum in the ocean before, you know what I mean. So what we've been doing with New Year's resolution is we've been swimming against the waves. So we set the goal, we make a plan that we know it's not going to happen. It's just like when years ago, a decade ago, my husband and I did Dave Ramsey, and it was what we needed at that phase of our life. We don't follow Dave Ramsey anymore, but at that point of our life, we needed that. And we would do this budget, and we would put like so little money in any of the categories. Like, for example, we would say clothing, $25. And then, of course, we would blow that up because we have children, and then you need to buy school clothing, and that is nothing. $25, you buy nothing, right? So so I learned that every time that we make a plan that is not realistic, it's not going to happen. And we don't think that because we look at somebody else and somebody else is saying they're doing, and we think we can do it too because somebody else is doing. And yes, we can, but do we want to? That's the good question. Because unless we want to, we are not going to have what we need to get that done. I do not want to penny pinch. I do not want to count my cents in my wallet. I prefer to spend my energy finding how I can make more money instead of spending my energy finding what is the cheapest way that I can buy rice and beans. You know what I'm saying? Because the energy spent is the same. Whether you are working on making more or spending less, you're spending the same energy, the same time. So we make those New Year resolutions, we make those plans that are not realistic, we fail, and then we feel like we are a failure, and we say, I've tried before, I've tried lose weight, and I could never do it. And I am going to tell you, if there's one thing you're going to remember from this whole podcast, let this be it. The reason why is that we create a separation between who we are and who we want to be. And if we want to transform, we need to destroy that separation. So I know this is confusing. I'm going to give you a very easy example. There is a person that is stop smoking. If you have ever quit smoking, you know exactly what I'm going to say. Somebody is trying to stop smoking. They are out with a friend, and the friend is a smoker. The friends say, let's go outside, I'm going to smoke a cigarette. Then the person who is trying to quit smoking go outside with that friend. And the friend is a friend and it's nice and it's like, do you want a cigarette? So this is the difference. Most of us will look at that question and will tell our friends, no, I am trying to quit smoking. Do you see that there is a separation between a person who doesn't smoke and that person who is trying to quit? I am trying to quit. I'm trying to lose weight. I'm trying to save money. I'm trying. Like there is a separation. I'm not there. I am not that person. So I'm trying to be that person. A better way to do that is if the friend asks, do you want a cigarette? You say, I am a non smoker. I don't smoke. I don't smoke anymore. You can say I don't smoke anymore. I quit drinking 3.5 years ago. If you've met me before, I was a heavy drinker. I was a high functioning alcoholic. And what I did, I quit cold turkey. If you're an alcoholic, that's the only way to do it. And I would go out with friends and I'm like, I don't drink anymore. I never said I'm trying to not drink. Because if I try, I'm going to fail. So I don't drink anymore. I don't smoke anymore. I'm a non smoker. There is no separation between the result I want because it's already happening now. I don't smoke. I don't drink. Does that make sense to you? Like I said, if you're going to remember one thing from this episode, let this be it. I'm going to get a sip of water. So, how do we go from trying to actually being that person? And if you think about it, when God created us, he created human beings, not human doing. And we became society, our culture, the people around us, from we were born being human beings, and then we grew to become human doing. And if you ask somebody right now what is their identity, 99% of chance that they're going to tell you something they do. They're going to tell you their profession or that they're a mom, or they're going to say something they do, not their identity, because most of us, we forget what our identity is. And this is the way for us to stop with the New Year revolution. New Year resolutions, not revolution. We do need a revolution. New Year's resolutions, and remember our identity and go back to being that good, very good creation. And I was reading a book, and the book was talking about, and I know I've mentioned this before because for me, that's like the perfect picture. I know I've mentioned this in previous episodes, but it was talking about, and that can be true or it can be a made up story, we'll never know. But it was saying about the artist Michelangelo, and that once a journalist asked him how he envisioned the statues before he create like a statue of the King David, for example. And he said that he will look to a piece of marble, a piece of stone, and he will look at it and say, okay, God, let me see how you created David. And then he will see that image, that how God created David, and all he does is take the excess stones out of there to keep what God already created. And this is what we need to do in our lives, because when we are born very good. We are born with health. We are born with abundance. And if you think about it, as a newborn, no newborn comes out of the womb and say, okay, I got to get a job. I got bills to pay. We have everything we need when we are born. And I know that some of us have been born to a family with resources. Some of us have been born with families that had no resources. I know that some listening may had a very hard childhood, and I want to honor that. But whatever you are in the spectrum, you still didn't have to go to work when you were 2 weeks old. You still didn't have to pay a bill or go to the grocery store and pass your debit card so you could buy your food. Somewhat and somehow you were fed. Somehow you were clothed. Somehow you had a place to sleep. Because we are born abundant. We are born receiving things that we need to survive. And that's why we are all here. We all survived. But as we grow, we add those extra stones because of culture, because what we should be doing, because we're supposed to be doing, because what everybody else think it's right, because what everybody else expect of us. And then we become that person with all those responsibilities, no joy. The abundance is gone because now it's a scarcity. Like you have to go to work, you have to pay those bills. And I'm not saying it's wrong to go to work. I work. I'm working right now as I'm recording this podcast episode. I love doing it, but it's still work. I would rather be hanging out with my dog if I would get paid for it. You know what I'm saying? It's still work. We all work. Everybody has to add to society somehow. But when we think that our provision is coming from our actions and not from the abundance of God, we get stuck in that trap that we need to do all those things. We become human doing instead of human being, right? The same thing with our health. We think that the only way to have health is to wake up at 5 and work out and eat 1,000 calories a day and not eat anything that we enjoy. And we just live this miserable life because we think that's the only way to be healthy. Because that's what we see on Instagram, that's what we see in Hollywood, that's what our neighbor tell us. So we think that's true. But the truth is that if we really take the rocks out and really follow the needs of our body, we are going to be healthy. Okay? So the secret for us to not have to do New Year's resolution and actually start transforming our life, it's reminding our true identity, reminding that health, abundance, relationships are all things that we had the day we came to this world, and we lost them as we became responsible adults. Okay, so let's take those rocks out and put those things back into our life. Just become that person. Become the non-smoker. Become the person who no longer drinks. And I'm not saying you have to stop smoking or drinking. If that is not on your plan, that's personal. I would highly recommend, but that's your choice. But that's an example. So if you want to transform, if you want to change something in your life, I say the first step is for you to think what in your life you are not happy with. And I'm just going to say, I work with a lot of women, and I'm just going to tell you what I hear the most. The number one is finances. Like finances, 99% of the women want to make more money, and that's completely fine. That's actually important. I am going to say something that is not politically correct, but I don't care. um, I grew up my whole life listening to money does not bring happiness or money does not buy happiness, whichever version you know. And I'm going to tell you that the only thing that money buys is happiness. Money does not buy all happiness. There are things that money absolutely cannot buy. Believe me, almost 1.5 years ago, I had the most tragic day happening in my life and the life of my family. And I wish that there was any money who could revert the situation, and that was not. It's impossible. There are things that only God can, and in reality, everything only God can do. Even give us the money is God's grace, is God's job. The abundance that we have is through God's creation, right? When we are born with that abundance is because God is graceful and he gives that to the world. But money cannot buy all happiness. But money can only buy happiness, okay? Because I guarantee right now, if you are not worrying about how you're going to pay your next rent or your next mortgage, or how you're going to buy food for your family, or how you're going to pay for your car payment, your insurance, how you're going to pay for that doctor's appointment, how you're going to pay for that surgery that you really need to do and you're postponing for a year because you don't have money to pay, how you're going to pay for your kids' gymnastics or whatever that you know it's going to make them happy, but right now you can't work out in the budget. Like, if you didn't have to worry about those things, let me go ahead and say you have a friend who needs something, and if you didn't have to feel sorry for them and you actually had the money to do whatever your friend needed and you could give it to them without having to take food out of your kids' table, I mean, how much happier would you be if you didn't have to worry about those things? Okay? I guarantee you would be much happier. Would you be the happiest person on earth? Once again, no, because you can still pay for whatever doctor, you can pay for whatever surgery, but the healing only comes from God. But God still allows us to use the resources for our comfort. Because if not, God would not even create the resources. If the physical did not matter, God would just let us live in the spiritual realm, right? So, money. I'm going to stop here. I have a lot of episodes on money, and it's like my favorite topic, so we'll talk more about that another day. But money is number one. What I hear most women saying, that if they could change one thing in their life, it's money. And if you are in that bucket, do not feel ashamed. Money is not the root of all evil. Actually, scarcity is the root of all evil, okay? Scarcity. And that's a wrong translation, because the Bible says the love of mammon is the root of all evil. I have a full podcast episode on this topic as well. The love of mammon. And mammon is the demon who tells you that you need to have something for your security that is material. That can be money, that can be a house, that can be your canned goods, that can be anything. So mammon is the demon of scarcity. So scarcity is the root of all evil, okay? So that's also, if you want more on that, I have several episodes. Send me a DM on Instagram and I'll send you all the podcast episode, easy for you to find. But anyway, don't be ashamed. If money is it, there's ways for you to become that person. Remove the stone and become that abundant person that God already created you to be when you were born. Okay. Number two, health. Most of the women I know want to improve their health, whether they want to be more active or they want to lose some weight or they want to, maybe they have any sickness going on. That's something else that women want to change. Once again, we have to become that person. Another thing I did, I found out about a year ago that I had gluten allergy. So I do not eat gluten. If I go to a restaurant, I ask for the gluten-free menu. I don't sit there and try not to eat gluten and try to do my best. I don't eat gluten. I am not going to eat gluten because I know it hurts my body. So I'm not trying to do better. I am the person who no longer eats gluten. Yeah, we may become a little bit difficult for other people, but what is killing us is to do things that harm us so we are easier for other people to swallow. And I got to a point in my life that I'm going to take care of my health, my physical health, my mental health. And if somebody is not happy with that, I guess they can choke. I'm not going to kill myself so other people can be happy and comfortable. Okay. If they are unhappy because I'm taking care of myself, they don't love me in the first place. So it took me 37 years to get to this point, but here I am. Praise God. So health, money, health. Other thing is relationships. People want to improve, women want to improve their marriages. How can you become a wife that has a great marriage. You are that person. When you got married, the day you got married, you and your husband had something. And then with the time, some couples lose it because they add so much rocks into that sculpture. Remove those rocks, go back to what it was on the beginning. How did you live? How was he? How was you? Um, so we have to remove those rocks and we have to go back to being the person we were first created. That was very good. Okay, so I'm going to stop here. I can talk about this all day. If you know anything about me, I am a talker. I have two things to offer you now. One is a completely free workbook. So if you're like, okay, I'm sick and tired of this New Year's resolution thing. I already quit on Friday, or I didn't even got started. I talked to some people that they said that this year they were just so tired, they were not even doing resolutions. So if you are in that situation, you're like, I'm tired. I don't want to uh, push it through and hustle through to get healthy or to improve my finances or to improve my relationships. I want to do it organically. I want to be that person. If that's something you want to do, you can download. I call the Transform and Thrive workbook. It's completely free. I'm going to put the link in the show notes. You click in there, we'll send the workbook to your email. You can print it out or do it in your computer. I highly recommend you printing or get a notebook and write in the questions, because when you're kind of writing on a pen and a paper, you feel more um, you feel more like real. You are going to write more things than in the computer. Your brain doesn't really release everything that needs to be released, if you know what I mean. um, and so that's one thing. And then if you are ready, if you're like, I know what I need to change, like I do need to change my finances, I am ready for, I know that's the biggest issue in my life right now, or I do need to change my health, or whatever the situation is, but you know what it is, your biggest pain point. I have something else that I can offer you, because this changes per person. Each person has different needs, each person has different situations throughout their day, family situation, schedule situation, um, different limiting beliefs, different family history, etc. So for me to be able to help you specifically on what is holding you back from being the person who does not drink, for example, um, I will have to talk to you and understand your specific situation. So if you are ready for that, if you are ready to make the change, I have a special deal going on right now. I usually don't do that, but I'm doing right now, just for the beginning of the year, a 30-minute call one on one with me, where we are going to sit down. I'm going to listen to your, um, I'm going to say story, but how you feel, what do you want to change, and kind of your background of how you got to be where you are now, so we can undo that, so we can remove those rocks. And then we are going to make a plan together on how you can do that. And then you can go from there, right? So that's a 30-minute call. I have a super discount price. I am doing that for $49 right now. So that's less than a therapy session. And that will really give you clarity on what you have to do from now on. So I'm going to put both links in the show notes, the link for the free workbook and the link if you are ready to schedule this call. Okay. And I'm going to leave you with one last thing. Paul wrote in Romans 12:2, we have to be transformed by the renewing of our minds. We have to let it go of all those extra rocks that the world put it on us. And then we have to remove them. And that's how we are transformed by the renewing of our minds. And that's how we become the person that we actually are. We don't have to become somebody else. We just have to find out who we really are. Okay, so I want to leave you with this. I hope this was helpful for you. I love you guys, and I will talk to you soon.